Hello and welcome to India Reads. I'm Pradeep and we are reading The Accidental Prime Minister. We are on chapter number 4. Let's start. Managing the coalition. I don't know if he's an overrated economist, but I know he's an underrated politician. Digvijay on NDTV 2012. A couple of years before Sonia Gandhi took charge of the Congress, the communist ideologue Mohit Sen wrote a persuasive column in the Times of India underlying the historic role Sonia would be called upon to play and urging her to do so. The first woman president of the Indian National Congress, he argued, was also a European woman, Annie Besant. The party, he stressed, should once again be led by another. When Mohit's column landed on my table, I was then the editorial page editor of the Times of India. I was amused and surprised. Mohit was an uncle, a close friend of my father from their time together in Hyderabad, and a person with whom I received my first lessons in Marxism. I called Mohit and told him that his suggestion that Sonia should take charge of the Congress was an outlandish idea. As the political party of the Indian freedom struggle, surely it had to have a future independent of the Nehru Gandhi family. How could he suggest that Sonia become the party president merely because she was Rajiv's widow? I told him people would laugh at him for his political naivete and suggest the column be junked. He was most offended and threatened to go elsewhere if I refused to publish his piece. Finally, I agreed to use it because of my affection and regard for him. Mohit's column was the first credible public call for Sonia's induction into public life. Mohit had already drawn close to Sonia and he later also warmed towards Dr. Singh. He had been a critic of Dr. Singh's economic policies in the early 1990s, but within the next decade came around to accepting the view that Dr. Singh would make a good PM, though he saw nothing wrong in Sonia herself taking up that post. It was Dr. Singh who released Mohit's autobiography at the India International Center. When Mohit died in 2003, Sonia's condolence message referred to him as a father figure in her life. After Mohit's death, Dr. Singh took on that role. Perhaps he was not precisely a father figure to Sonia, but there was certainly something avuncular about his relationship with her. I assume that Mohit, as an Indira loyalist, had a special regard for his heirs. But his opinion that Sonia should enter politics was also based on his conviction that without a Nehru Gandhi family member at the top, the Congress party would splinter and wither away. This view was also encouraged by members of the Delhi Darbar, a power elite, to use a socialist C. Wilright Mills term, comprising civil servants, diplomats, editors, intellectuals, and business leaders who had worked with or had been close to the regimes of Nehru, Indira, and Rajiv. Some of them inhabited the many trusted institutions that the Nehru Gandhi family controlled. They had all profited in one way or other over the years from their loyalty to the Congress First family. In opposition to this view, the one held by a congressman like Narasimha Rao, who, while ironically titling his semi autobiographical book The Insider, believed that he was an outsider among the Delhi's Nehru Gandhi power elite. Rao believed that a political organization that was more than a century old, the Party of India's freedom movement, inspired and led by Gandhi, a Mahatma who was no relative of these Gandhis, ought to imagine for itself a life beyond the Nehru Gandhi family. Many small regional parties might have become feudal, even despotic, family led parties. But how could a grand old political organization like the Indian National Congress link its future only to the fortunes of one political family? This view had few takers among the family loyalists who took charge of the party after the unceremonious ouster of Sitaram Kesri, the man Narasimha Rao chose as the successor and who in turn placed his own party's crown in Sonia's hands. When Sonia Gandhi decided to join active politics and take charge of the Congress party, becoming its president in 1998, few thought few thought how her elevation would affect the relationship between the party and a future Congress government. While her loyalists argued that there was nothing to resolve here, since she would become the prime minister, her detractors in the party said that they were willing to accept her as a party president but not as a future PM because of her Italian origin. It was this issue that led Sharad Pawar and others to exit the party in 1999 and form the NCP. It was against this backdrop that the arrangement that came into place in 2004 would be viewed and tested. Would Sonia really remain the only party president and leave the government for Dr. Singh to handle? Having led the Congress back to power, especially in the face of skepticism about her abilities to win an election and the open revolt of party warlords like Pawar, would she rest content allowing someone else to wield that power. What would Dr. Singh's strategy be? Should he assume that while Sonia was the leader of the Congress, he was the head of the coalition government with a non Congress constituents, including a rebel like Pawar, and carve out his own political space and retain administrative control of the government? Or should he be running every day to 10 Janpat, Sonia's residence come office, to take her instructions? Some chief ministers had done that with their party bosses. Jyoti Basu, in his earlier days as chief minister of West Bengal, had a daily meeting with his party boss Pramod Das Gupta at the party headquarters. Manohar Joshi, the Shiv Sena CM of Maharashtra, did the same with his party supremo Bal Thackeray. Handling the delicate equation with Sonia was Dr. Singh's first and biggest political challenge. How a CM is perceived at the state is different from the way a PM is perceived at the national and international levels. The Prime Minister is the national leader and the international face of a country. He negotiates with other heads of the government and must be seen as his own man. However, moreover, Dr. Singh was PM because the UPA coalition as a whole was willing to accept him. In 1999, Mulayam Singh Yadav had refused to support Sonia when she claimed she had the numbers to form a government. So I, at any rate, saw my job as one of establishing Dr. Singh's credibility as PM, while ensuring that the relationship with Sonia and the party was on even keel. The first tricky situation presented itself in August 2004. The the PM's SPG asked me if I would participate in the dress rehearsal of Dr. Singh's first Independence Day address from the ramparts of the Red Fort. This involved traveling in the PM's motorcade from RCR to Red Fort, stopping at places to place imaginary wreaths of at Mahatma Gandhi's Memorial Ghat at Rajghat and the memorials of the members of the Nehru Gandhi family, and then spent 40 minutes on the ramparts of the fort from where the PM would address the nation before returning to RCR. As I walked around the ramparts, accompanied by a defense ministry official, I curiously examined the name cards placed on the chairs set out for the guests at the evening. The first seat in the first row, adjacent to the podium from where the PM would speak, was reserved for Mrs. Kaur. After that, the seating was in accordance with the Defence Ministry's protocol and the order of precedence as issued in the Gazette of India, which meant senior cabinet leaders, leader of opposition, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and other holders of high office. Sonia Gandhi's name was nowhere to be found in the front row. When I asked the official where Sonia would be seated, he looked at the protocol list in his hand and pointed to a chair in the middle of the fourth or fifth row. She was to be seated next to Najma Heptullah, the former congresswoman and deputy chairperson of the Rajya Sabha who had crossed floors and joined the BJP. I was aghast. Such an arrangement would embarrass the PM and I imagined make Sonia livid. I then recall noticing that Sonia was always seated in the front row at the Rashtrapati Bhavan events, perhaps on the first seat along the aisle. I immediately called Muthu Kumar, an official in the PMO's media department, and asked him to check with the President's Secretariat how it managed to seat Sonia in the front row, where her status as an MP, albeit one who was also a chairperson of the NEC with a cabinet rank, merited only a fourth or fifth row chair. Muthu discovered that the Rashtrapati Bhavan had made a minor alteration in the seating procedure during President Shankar Dayal Sharma's time. Sharma, India's president from 1992 to 97, had authorized that the spouse of a former prime minister would get the same protocol status as a former PM. The reasoning was that if a former PM had been accompanied by his spouse at Rashtrapati Bhavan event, the two would have been seated together. This issue had not arisen for previous prime ministers because Nehru, Indira, Morarji Desai, and Narasimha Rao all had been predeceased by their spouses, and the spouses of other deceased PMs were clearly not in the habit of attending state functions. Sonia was the first widowed spouse of PM in public life. The episode drew early attention to the pure protocol dimension of Sonia's new status vis-a-vis the PM. While Sonia did have cabinet rank as chairperson of NEC, which was set up on 4 June 2004, shortly after UPA 1 assumed power, and was entitled to the same salary, pay allowances, and other facilities to which a member of the Union Council of Ministers is entitled. She had to be given a rank put her next only to the PM and his wife and not further down in the order of precedence. While the protocol issues raised by Sonia's status were new to the party president prime minister equation, the relationship problem itself was neither new nor peculiar to India. Defining the relationship between the party president or general secretary in the case of communist parties and the head of government has bedeviled many regimes around the world for a long time. In non democratic systems like the erstwhile Soviet Union and contemporary China, the protocol and the divisions of real power between the Communist Party General Secretary and the head of government is a complex issue. In democracies, it becomes even more complicated when the popularly elected head of the government is different from the leader of the party in power. In India, the problem raised its head on day one. As the first post independence Congress party president, Acharya Kriplani demanded that he be taken into confidence on the policies of the government headed by Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. Nehru rejected his demand, taking the view that while the party could be briefed on broad policy issues, it would not be possible for ministers sworn to secrecy and holding constitutional office to share the contents of the government files with the party president. Nehru invited Kriplani to join the government as a minister without portfolio and secure his entitlement, drawing a sharp distinction between party and government. Ministers, he argued, function under a constitutional oath and were subject to Official Secrets Act. No minister, not even the Prime Minister, could show a file to someone outside the government, not even to the Congress President. Kriplani did not accept Nehru's view or his invitation to join the government and quit as Congress President. Nehru then took over the party presidency in 1950, combining the two posts for the first time, and continued in this manner until 1954 when UN Debar became the party president. While Indira Gandhi, who had served as party president in 1959, managed a working relationship with Congress presidents during her tenure as PM, including Kamraj, Jagjeevan Ram, and Shankar Dayal Sharma. She took over as party president after her defeat in 1977 and retained the post which when she returned to office as PM in 1980. Rajiv Gandhi followed suit, keeping the Congress presidency till his death in 1991. Keeping control over both the party and the government was viewed as the best way for a prime minister to ensure political support for his policy initiatives, especially and increasingly so in the Congress party, where political loyalty was based on personal advancement and enrichment rather than a commitment to a shared ideology. On Rajiv's death, Narasimha Rao took over as Congress president and he too retained the post after he was elected prime minister in 1991. However, Rao was challenged at the All India Congress Committee session at Tirupati in 1992 by a group led by Arjun Singh and N.D. Tiwari that demanded a separation of roles. Rao had then to fight hard to get re-elected president and retain his control over the Congress Working Committee, the executive committee of the party. Once he was elected, he kept the post till after his defeat in the 1996 elections. He was then succeeded by Sitaram Kesri, who yielded power to Sonia in March 1998. It was an early mark of Sonia's regard for and trust in Dr. Singh that when she took charge as the party leader in the Lok Sabha, she nominated Dr. Singh as the party's leader in Rajya Sabha. Apart from the weekly meeting of the Congress core group, initially comprising Sonia, the PM, Arjun Singh, A.K. Antony, Pranab Mukherjee, and Sonia's political secretary, Ahmed Patel, and the messages exchanged through two intermediaries, Pulak and Patel, or occasional telephone conversation, there was not much other regular contact between Dr. Singh and Sonia in the early years of UPA 1. The core group met regularly at 7 RCR. Sonia would arrive first and get her exclusive 10 minutes with Dr. Singh. It was when the two spoke to each other in private. Once their one on one conversation was over, the others would be invited in. Dr. Singh rarely spoke in the core group meetings. He would hear what the others had to say and take his decisions after having another word with Sonia. There was also little social contact between the families of the two leaders. Mrs. Kaur and Sonia met rarely, except at official functions and banquets. Rarely did, Rarely too did Dr. Singh's daughter or Sonia's children join the Congress president and the Prime Minister at social gatherings. On the odd occasion, Sonia would call on Dr. Singh to discuss family matters. There were, after all, few family elders available to give her advice on things that may have bothered her in her personal life. While she was very close to her mother, her father had passed away. Rajiv's friends like Satish Sharma, Sam Pitroda, and Suman Dubey were all her age. I was aware that on at least one occasion she came to see Dr. Singh to discuss the concerns about Rahul's personal plans. Following that conversation, Dr. Singh invited Rahul for lunch and the two spent time together. In private, Sonia often addressed Dr. Singh as Manmohan, which, given her Western background, suggested that she felt closer and more familial in her relationship with him than the other senior leaders of his generation. Dr. Singh, for his part, always referred to her as Sonia ji or Mrs. Gandhi and treated her with the old fashioned courtesy. At the annual UP anniversary function at 7 RCR, he always made it a point to stand up on the dais when Sonia stood up to walk to the podium and deliver her speech, a practice that other congressmen did not follow. Culturally, it's a Western gesture for a man to stand up when a woman does, and women are not expected to reciprocate. So Sonia naturally did not. But Delhi's political journalists who were always watching the two like hawks at public events for evidence that the PM was more differential to her than he needed to be would draw my attention to the leader's body language with wicked smiles. When Sonia turned 60, Dr. Singh sent her a personal letter praising her courage and fortitude. She had been widowed at a young age and had to bring up her children at a very difficult social and security context of Delhi, and she had allowed herself to be persuaded to take on the mantle of the party presidency by congressmen who feared that the party would disintegrate without her at the helm. Recounting these facts, Dr. Singh praised her for her courage and her poise in the face of such adversity, and for her energy and wisdom for which she had led the Congress party back to power. Sonia and Dr. Singh's warm personal equation was also evident in the little gestures he made to show his concern for her welfare, like always calling her to check on how she was whenever she took ill. I had no reason to doubt that Dr. Singh and Sonia implicitly trusted each other. Reports appearing in the media about differences between the two were often planted by disgruntled congressmen and mischievous journalists, some of whom would point a finger in my direction. That did not mean that the two had no differences on policy issues, but any such differences between them would have been aired only in their private meetings, and the PM almost never allowed any of this to trickle into public realm. The PM also never questioned Sonia's right as party president to influence portfolio allocations, though over time he became quite forthcoming in giving his opinions, and she did accept his advice. While I knew it was not realistic to argue that Dr. Singh would have full control over ministerial appointments, I felt he needed to assert himself at least in the allocation of portfolios to junior ministers, and would press him when I got chance. In 2005, for example, when he asked me whether I thought Jairam Ramesh should be inducted into the government, I replied that Jairam ought to be more demonstrative of his loyalty to the PM if he wanted a berth in the ministry. I was taken aback when a few days later Montek took me aside at a Christmas party at journalist T.N. Ninan's house and asked me why I was opposing Jairam's induction. I clarified to Montek that I was not against it, and I had only said to the PM that at least younger Congress MPs should feel that they owed their ministerial berths to the PM rather than just to Sonia. I was not aware of what transpired after that, but in the following month, January 2006, Jairam did get inducted as a Minister of State in the Commerce Ministry. I was not surprised to learn that Jairam later called on Sonia's friend Suman Dubey and thanked him for the job. Politics is lot. Uh, Politics is about power and patronage, and ministerial positions are won not just on the basis of competence but also in recognition of a politician's political clout or loyalty to the leader. For Congress MPs, the leader to please was always Sonia. They did not see loyalty to the PM as a political necessity, nor did Dr. Singh seek loyalty in the way in which Sonia and her aides sought it. That Jairam's loyalty was only with Sonia became clearer within weeks of his becoming a minister, when he chose to embarrass the PM by leaking a letter that Sonia had written to Dr. Singh, cautioning him against pursuing an initiative he valued a lot, the free trade agreement with member countries of the ASEAN. Dr. Singh viewed the India ASEAN FTA as an important geopolitical initiative aimed at India's economic integration into the rapidly growing Asian economies and as being helpful in balancing China's growing clout in Asia. The CPIM, on the other hand, chose to oppose the India ASEAN FTA on the grounds that it would hurt the interests of the plantation workers in Kerala and West Bengal. Keen to blunt CPIM's criticism, the Congress party in Kerala exerted pressure on the central leadership to abandon the FTA project. Sonia Gandhi's letter to the PM was written to convey these concerns. It was not a normal practice for Sonia to write such formal letters to the PM. She almost always conveyed serious concerns orally and directly or through intermediaries like Ahmed Patel and Pulak Chatterjee. However, since she had written Dr. Singh to responded in writing, defended the, defending the FTA, he wrote, our approach to regional trade agreements in general and the FTAs in particular has been evolved after careful consideration of our geopolitical as well as economic interests. Although India has large domestic market, our experience with earlier relatively insular policies as also the global experience in this regard clearly bring out the growth potential of trade and economic cooperation with the global economy. A few weeks later, Sonia's confidential letter to the PM found its way into the media, with the Business Standard carrying a front page story. A furious Dr. Singh asked me to find out who had leaked it. I asked the editor T.N. Ninan. Quite understandably, Ninan declined to reveal the identity of the privileged news source. However, a journalist in the New confirmed Jairam Ramesh wrote, I reported this back to Dr. Singh, who had picked up the phone and reprimanded Jairam, even as the later denied any role in the leak. Interestingly, the PM was amenable to the suggestion that his letter to Sonia be made public, given that her letter to him had been publicly aired. Therefore, I released his letter to the media. While such a public expression of difference between them was rare, this incident did draw attention to the role of mischief makers in muddying the waters. On a daily and regular basis, messages between Sonia and the PM were conveyed either by Ahmed Patel or Pulak Chatterjee. While Pulak met Sonia regularly to brief her on policy issues and seek her guidance on key decisions, Ahmed Patel was a political link between Sonia and Dr. Singh. Patel would visit South Block mainly to lobby with Pulak for the inclusion of names of the Congress party members on the boards of public enterprises and nationalized banks. Patel also met the PM from time to time, and those meetings were invariably held at 7 RCR. Any increase in the frequency of his visits was almost a signal of an impending cabinet reshuffle. Patel was the one who carried to and fro the names of people to be included or dropped from the Council of Ministers. Patel was always very courteous and polite. As Sonia's trusted aide, he never behaved in a manner that would demonstrate his real power. With Dr. Singh, he was particularly polite and deferential in his behavior. As Sonia's chosen courier, he acquired the power to influence decision making in such matters till the very end. On one occasion, he arrived at 7 ASEA just minutes before the PM's letter to the president, listing the names of MPs to be sworn in as ministers in a reshuffle was dispatched. Since the letter had been typed and signed and was ready to be delivered, and the president was waiting to receive it, it was decided that instead of wasting time retyping the letter, the new name being canvassed by Patel would be typed over an existing name, and with that name being painted over with a whitener. Thus was Andhra MP Subbirami Reddy accommodated into the Council of Ministers in January 2006 after white paint had been applied over the name of Harish Rawat, an MP of Uttarakhand who is now the Chief Minister of that state. I had little to do with Patel, and during the few times we interacted, he was always warm and friendly. I had I only had two substantive conversations with him during my time at the PMO. The first occurred shortly after Narasimha Rao died. I had accompanied Dr. Singh to Rao's house on Delhi's Motilal Nehru Marg. As the PM entered the house, Patel pulled me aside. Narasimha Rao's children wanted former PM to be cremated in Delhi like other Congress prime ministers. Impressive memorials had been built for Nehru, Indira, and Rajiv at the places where they had been cremated along the river Yamuna, adjacent to Mahatma Gandhi's memorial. Even the former Prime Minister Charan Singh, who had not belonged to the Congress, and Sanjay Gandhi, who was only an MP, had been cremated and memorialized in the vicinity. However, Patel wanted me to encourage Narasimha Rao's sons Ranga and Prabhakar and his daughter Vani to take their father's body to Hyderabad for cremation. Clearly, it seemed to me that Sonia did not want a memorial for Rao anywhere in Delhi. I reflected for a few minutes on Patel's request and felt it would not be appropriate for me to convey this message to the family. They had every right to make their demand that they were making. Why should I involve myself in this matter? I kept my counsel and walked away, not saying a word about Patel's suggestion to Rao's children when I met them to express my condolences. Later that evening, I was told the Congress party had got Rao's family to agree to fly his body to Hyderabad by deploying Home Minister Shivraj Patil and Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister YSR Reddy to persuade them to fall in line. The Congress party refused to allow Rao's body to be brought into party headquarters on its way to the airport, and Sonia chose not to be present at the Hyderabad cremation. Interestingly, in 2007, the Congress party tried to replay this stratagem with the family of former Prime Minister Chandrasekhar, persuading them to take the body of the former PM to his farm at Bhonsi in Haryana. However, Chandrasekhar's son insisted that the family would go to Delhi's Lodi crematorium if the former PM was not given a proper state funeral in Delhi. The government fell in line and Chandrasekhar was cremated on the banks of the Yamuna at the spot designated Ekta Sthal. The second time Patel approached me was when the leader of the Telangana Rashtra Samiti, Chandrasekhar Rao, also a cabinet minister, demanded that I be sacked from government for issuing a denial to the media about a claim that he had made regarding the subject of his conversation with Dr. Singh. Rao had claimed that he met the PM to press for an early decision on Telangana, while he had in fact met him for some other purpose and the Telangana issue had never come up for conversation. This is what I had said to the Telugu media when pressed by them for an account of what actually transpired at the meeting. Patel wanted me to apologize to the minister and end the controversy. I had to tell Patel that my briefing was factual and I saw no reason to apologize, but would do so if instructed by the PM. I made it clear I took my orders only from Dr. Singh. The matter ended there. Rao reportedly calmed down after hearing me calling me names. A few weeks later, on a visit to 7 RCR, he hugged me warmly and offered to invite me home for a meal of Hyderabadi biryani. The invitation never came. The creation of NAC in June 2004 was the first oversight to me that Sonia's renunciation of power was more of a political tactic than a response to higher calling or to an inner voice, as she put it at that time. Admittedly, she chose not to head the UPA government even after leading the Congress to electoral success in 2004 general elections, instead putting forth the name of Dr. Singh. But while power was delegated, authority was not. Her decisions early on to try and appoint a principal secretary to the PM of her choosing, the retired Tamilian official who had worked with Rajiv but declined Sonia's invitation, and to place a trusted aide, Pulak Chatterjee, in the PMO, were aimed at ensuring a degree of control over government. Of course, she had a decisive role in the allocation of portfolios. The creation of NAC and Sonia's choice of ministers was explained in a way as recognition of the growing importance and influence of non-governmental organizations, NGOs, that claim to represent civil society in policy making. However, in actual practice, it created a parallel policy structure that sought to project Sonia as the voice of civil society and Dr. Singh as a representative of the government. While Dr. Singh realized that he had no option but to live with this situation and never complained about it, it always seemed to me that he was not too comfortable with it, even if he was willing to see merit in the ideas that came out of the NAC. The manner of creation of the NAC by executive order was no different from Nehru's creation of the Planning Commission. Many senior Congress leaders felt unhappy about Nehru's decision to create a non constitutional policy advisory board outside the cabinet system, even though Nehru appointed himself as the chairman of the commission. John Mathai even resigned as finance minister from Nehru's cabinet in protest. Yet no one in the UPA government raised such an issue about the status and role of the NAC, a body of which the PM was not even formally the chairperson. Notwithstanding Dr. Singh's discomfort with the NAC, intellectual differences between Sonia and him were never as sharp as projected by both her supporters and critics. Such projection, when it came from her supporters, was part of her image and brand building. Sonia was to be projected as a caring socialist concerned about the welfare of the poor, while Dr. Singh was to be blamed for being too fiscally conservative and pro business. Indeed, Dr. Singh essentially a Keynesian ended up being wrongly portrayed as neoliberal, neoliberal economist. Faced with this situation, the Prime Minister felt the need at times to make a point that his views were not quite as extreme as those of his friends, the economists Jagdish Bhagwat and T.N. Srinivasan, and that he did differ on some issues with Montek. He used the opportunity provided by an episode in September 2004 to do so. Montek had come up under attack from the left for inducting what the left dubbed pro business and neoliberal consultants into the planning commission, such as Arun Maira, the chairman of the Boston Consulting Group in India, and the economist Suman Berry. Dr. Singh wanted me to let it be known that he was not entirely happy with Montek's decision. On such occasions, I would draw a politically savvy journalist into conversation and say things that a good reporter always picked up and did a story on, without being explicitly told so. Montek subsequently withdrew that initiative, though Myra became a planning commission member under UPA2. When I confronted the CPIM ideologue and Marxist economist Prabhat Patnaik and asked him how he could dub Dr. Singh a neoliberal, knowing fully that his academic orientation had all along been Keynesian, Prabhat argued that Dr. Singh was intellectually a Keynesian but claimed his policies were neoliberal. The left found it useful to make this distinction between Sonia and Dr. Singh, approvingly portraying the former as being socialist in orientation because it provided them with a justification for continuing to extend political support to the Sonia led UPA while criticizing the policies of the Singh led government. Both left and Sonia, or at least her advisors, made good use of this distinction in managing the peculiar balance between the two parties, the Congress and the CPIM, that had fought each other all their lives and were fellow travelers. The left would be supportive of the leftist Sonia and the critical of the rightist Manmohan. It suited them to play this game till Dr. Singh forced Sonia to choose between him and the left in June 2008. On the issue of the India ASEAN FTA, the left tried again to gain political advantage by getting Kerala Chief Minister V.S. Achyutanandan to lead a delegation, including his Finance Minister T.M. Thomas Isaac and Prabhat Patnaik, who was a deputy chairman of the Kerala State Planning Board, to submit a memorandum to the PM against the India ASEAN FTA. Dr. Singh adroitly deflected this ploy. Receiving the papers, he told the delegation with the signature smile. But, comrades, I'm told that the FTA would benefit farmers in the Fraternal Socialistic Republic of Vietnam. Everybody burst out laughing, and the matter ended there. With Surjit as General Secretary of the CPIM, Dr. Singh may have assumed that he would be able to manage the left. The two Sardars had a warm relationship, testified to by Sujit's acquiescence in Montek's appointment. Dr. Singh also reached out to Jyoti Basu, who had stepped down as West Bengal Chief Minister but was still a leading figure in the CPIM, upon which Basu categorically assured him of his support for a full 5 year term, as he put it. For the smooth functioning of the relationship, a UPA left coordination committee was formed. Moreover, the PMO team under Pulak that was responsible for monitoring the NCMP would pay special attention to the programs of the interest of this to the CPM, especially in Kerala and Bengal. Dr. Singh also kept in touch with the left leadership through his own staff in the PMO. When career diplomat Shiv Shankar Menon was made foreign minister in 2006, it was hoped that he too would be a bridge between the government and the left because of his old friendship with the CPIM supporters and leaders, going back to student days and those of his sister Saraswati Menon, a contemporary of CPIM Politburo members Prakash Karat and Sitaram Yechuri at the JNU. In the early years, the relationship runs quite smoothly. Sojit and Basu, loyalists in the CPIM, were in general accommodating with Dr. Singh. As long as this group, led by Yechuri, was in control of Delhi's party office, Dr. Singh had little trouble working with the left. Karat's takeover of the CPIM changed all that. His attempt to seize power from Sojit began in the run up to the CPIM's 17th Party Congress in 2002. The Bengal faction of the party, led by Jyoti Basu and including Buddhadev Bhattacharya and Sitaram Yechuri, opposed Karat's move and Sojit stayed on. By 2004, the stakes had gone up. CPIM was, after 6 years, once again extending support to a government in New Delhi, and it mattered who controlled the party's national leadership in Delhi. On the eve of the 18th Party Congress in Delhi in April 2004, Buddhadev met Dr. Singh and assured him that there would be no change in leadership and Sujit would continue. Even as Dr. Singh and Buddhadev were having a private dinner at 7 RCR, the private news channel NDTV reported a breaking news that CPM Party Congress would see a change of guard with Karat replacing Sojit. I was sitting in the visitors' room at 7 RCR and watching the news of while Dr. Singh and Buddhadev were having dinner. I immediately went into the dining room and informed them that NDTV had claimed Karat was likely to replace Surjit. We all knew that NDTV had an inside to CPIM since NDTV's Pranay Roy was married to Radhika Roy, sister of Brinda Karat, a CPIM leader and wife of Prakash Karat. The PM looked quizzically at Buddhadev and the later appeared surprised. He smiled and said, "We will see." NDTV turned out to be right, and in the end, CPIM Party Congress ended with Surjit being replaced by Karat. We braced ourselves for rockier times, knowing fully that Karat and his party's hardliners disliked Surjit's softness towards Dr. Singh. Karat was among those who had been unhappy at Montek's appointment and perhaps even more Sojit's acquiescence to it. Clearly, the honeymoon between the PM and the CPIM was now over. When Sujit fell ill in 2008, Dr. Singh was particular that a warm tribute be paid to him in the event of his passing away. As soon as we heard that Sujit had been hospitalized, he asked me to draft a condolence message. Sujit survived his initial hospitalization but finally passed away when Dr. Singh was in Colombo in August that year. With Karat at the helm, the stronger anti Congress line of past CPM leaders, the late P. Sundaraya, the late A.K. Gopalan gained ground at the expense of softer Basu Surjit Yechuri line of being more accommodating towards the Congress and Dr. Singh. I warned Dr. Singh that if the CPM chose to move further left, partly in response to its growing unpopularity in the Bengal, Dr. Singh was bound to face even more difficulties. In June 2006, when Dr. Singh came under sharp attack from CPIM hardliners on India-US nuclear deal, he called on Jyoti Basu. I am He called on Jyoti Basu to find out if there was any rethinking on the part of the left on the assurance given to him that he would be allowed to serve his full term as PM. Basu reassured him that Dr. Singh had his full support as long as he adhered to the NCMP. Thus, when the left finally withdrew support, it said that it was doing because the Prime Minister had deviated from the NCMP, though Dr. Singh had maintained all along that the nuclear deal was not a deviation from the NCMP. The NCMP had only emphasized the importance of energy security for India, a commitment this deal would address. It also explicitly stated, even as it pursues closer engagement relations with the USA, the UPA government will maintain the independence of India's foreign policy position on all regional and global issues. While Dr. Singh was prepared to deal with the left's tantrums and demands and appoint left nominees to various positions in government and academic institutions, he was always conscious of the threat posed by the left to his own situation. He was aware of the role that the CPIM had played in all coalition governments that it had supported from 1977 onwards in unseating prime ministers. It had helped eject Morarji Desai and bring in Charan Singh in 1979. Defending this on ideological grounds, a pro business PM had been replaced by a peasant leader. The motive at the time was to try and make inroads into the Hindi heartland, which included the most backward and impoverished parts of India, where CPIM hardly had any presence. In 1990, the left played a similar role, helping Chandrasekhar displace Janata Dal leader VP Singh as the Prime Minister. In 1997, it once again played a part in ousting H.D. Devagowda, the Prime Minister installed in 1996, and propping up I.K. Gujral, who replaced him. Dr. Singh has had to constantly live with the assumption that the left might try this tactic once again, securing his ouster and having him replaced by either a Bengali Pranab Mukherjee or a Malayali A.K. Antony to win brownie points in the two states where it needed to bolster its presence. Dr. Singh tried to woo the left with his political posturing. Arjun Singh tried to woo the left with his political posturing, but it never really trusted him. When the left finally withdrew support to the government in July 2008, it tried till the very last to get Sonia to save the government by dumping Dr. Singh and replacing him with a pro left PM. Karat failed where his predecessors had succeeded because by June 2008, Dr. Singh's personal credibility and his standing as PM had reached such heights that the Congress would have been grievously wounded if Sonia had dumped Dr. Singh to please the left and retain power. While the formal consultative mechanisms with the left handling the left was always a tricky problem for Dr. Singh. He managed to keep the PMO staff on tight leash, never allowing us to upset the left until Karat's coup on the nuclear deal. But he did not always succeed with his cabinet colleagues. An early incident that I got drawn into involved Finance Minister P. Chidambaram. The BJP was refusing to support some of the finance minister's budget proposals, and the left wanting to take advantage of the government's dependency on it to pass the budget began arm twisting him. One day, the CPIM issued a statement that it might not be able to vote in support of some of Chidambaram's budget proposals. Dr. Singh called me and asked me to find out from the left how serious it was about the threat. Ensuring the successful passage of the finance bill in parliament is a constitutional requirement for the survival of the government. In India's parliamentary system, the government has to quit if it loses a vote of confidence or fails to secure the support for the finance bill. Not surprisingly, then Dr. Singh wanted to leave nothing to chance. At this stage, he was not seriously that worried the government would fail because both Surjit and Jyoti Basu had personally assured Dr. Singh that the CPIM would support him as PM for the entire 5 year term. But Dr. Singh wanted to be very sure that the left would vote in favor of the budget. It seemed to me that he also wanted to make sure that the left had the same view of the understanding with Chidambaram that the later claimed he had with them. Were they all on the same page or not? I went across to CPIM headquarters to meet Yechuri. He replied that I should check with Karat and went down the corridor to see if Karat was free to talk. He returned after a few minutes and said that Karat was busy, but he asked me to convey a message to the PM. The message went something like this: the CPIM will not bring the government down, so it will not vote against the finance bill. However, the finance minister had said that he would like to bring certain financial bills pertaining to the insurance and the banking sectors and provident fund. The CPIM would vote against such bills. Having passed on the message, Yoichiri came out with me as I left the building. As we walked, he told me, we can only unseat the government by voting it against it in the parliament. There are many things the finance minister can do without seeking the government parliament's approval. Let him do those things. We will protest, but we cannot stop him. This meant that the left would bark but not bite, a phrase commonly used by the media to interpret its stance. It would publicly disassociate itself from the government's initiative but would not withdraw support. When a policy initiative required legislative approval and therefore the left's vote in parliament, it would support only such policies that had its prior approval. I delivered this message to the PM. He had also seen Yechuri's statement to the media that UPA should know that the left would remain a watchdog and ensure that the government stuck to the policy parameters defined by the NCMP. Dr. Singh was satisfied with the clarification and wanted to seal the deal and ensure that there was no misunderstanding between the CPIM and the finance minister. He summoned Chidambaram and the left leaders for powwow, at which the left assured the PM that they would not vote against the finance bill. Dr. Singh understood and perhaps was even more willing to empathize with the left's posture. This was their political compulsion, keeping up with the ideological hardliners happy while allowing the government to do most of what it wanted to do. But he was not sure if Chidambaram would adopt such an accommodating view and feared he might be tempted to embarrass the left from time to time to score political points. That Dr. Singh was more adept at handling the left and Chidambaram was less became obvious even as Chidambaram, Yechuri and I walked back to the car park from the meeting. I quipped to Chidambaram that he should feel reassured by the fact that when Yechuri said the CPIM would be the UPS watchdog, he only meant that they would bark but not bite. A diplomatic finance minister would have either kept quiet or said something nice as a gesture of gratitude. But Chidambaram could not resist her jibe. He retorted in Yechuri's hearing, either ways he agrees that he's a dog. For Dr. Singh, managing the coalition allies was less challenging than managing his own party. He was acutely aware that this was the Congress Party's first attempt at stitching together and running a multi party coalition government. Political analysts have long made the point that government itself is a coalition of various factions. It had become even more so during Narasimha Rao's tenure because the party had reverted to some of its traditional ways of functioning after Rajiv Gandhi's death, which had ended a long period of Nehru Gandhi family suzerainty over the party. The splits that had occurred within the party during Rao's term as party president and prime minister had been reversed, after Sonia Gandhi became party president in 1998. On the other hand, the new splits surfaced, notably when senior Congress leaders Sharad Pawar and Purno Sangma left the Congress and formed the NCP. Dr. Singh had played a role in stitching the new UPA government together. It was he who negotiated DMK's entry into the UPA with M. Karunanidhi in January 2004 and had gone to great lengths to be deferential to him. Announcing the new alliance with the DMK in Chennai 24 years after the two parties had parted ways, Dr. Singh said, I have come here to establish a new relationship of trust and confidence with the DMK leader M. Karunanidhi and his party. Dr. Singh went a step further and hailed Karunanidhi as not just the leader of Tamil Nadu, but a great leader and one of the builders of the nation. His life and his work has inspired many in the country. As Prime Minister, Dr. Singh always received Karunanidhi at the portico of 7 RCR and not just at the door of his room, as was the norm with other visitors. When Karunanidhi sent an emissary with a message, Dr. Singh would set aside all other work and meet the DMK emissary. This made the DMK feel that they had a special equation with Dr. Singh. After all, the DMK's friendship with Sonia was a relatively new one. In 1996, she had rejected Narasimha Rao's proposal that the Congress ally with the DMK rather than the All India Anna Dravida Munnetra Kazhagam. The former were known to be sympathizers of the LTT, her husband's killers. The seminar room at the New Delhi Rajiv Gandhi Foundation in New Delhi had framed pages on its wall of the report of the Jain Inquiry Commission on Rajiv Gandhi's assassination, in which the DMK was named a conspirator. In fact, pushed Narasimha Rao into joining hands with AIDMK leader Jayalalitha, a deadly rival of the DMK, in the 1996 election. This prompted P. Chidambaram, Jayalalitha's better knower, to quit the Congress and join the Tamil Manila Congress. Against this background, the 2004 alliance with the Congress could not have been negotiated by Sonia. It was left to Dr. Singh to do that. And I was always surprised that political analysts paid little attention to these capabilities of the PM. Initially, Karunanidhi's nephew and the UPA government's telecom minister Dayanidhi Maran was a key interlocutor between Dr. Singh and the DMK leader in Chennai. Maran's stars plummeted when he got involved in the DMK's fact fratricidal wars, joining forces with Karunanidhi's son M.K. Stalin against his other son M.K. Ayagiri. His reputation also became unsavory as he began using his telecom portfolio to favor his brother Kalanidhi's media business. I was not sure if Dr. Singh had been alerted to this, but he certainly was by Ratan Tata in early 2007. Dayanidhi had summoned Tata to a meeting in Delhi in the latter's own Taj Mahal hotel on Mansingh Road and tried to browbeat him into doing a deal that would favor his brother Kalanidhi's Sun TV. Ratan Tata conveyed his disapproval of Dayanidhi's behavior to the PM. On 11 May 2007, Dr. Singh and Sonia went to Chennai to participate in a public meeting to celebrate the Golden Jubilee of Karunanidhi's first election to the state legislature. At the venue itself, Karunanidhi informed them that henceforth A. Raja would be his key representative in Delhi. The same night, Dr. Singh returned from Chennai and implemented Karunanidhi's request that the telecommunications portfolio be shifted from Dayanidhi to Raja. On May 13, Raja took over charge of telecom and within months became embroiled in the allegedly corrupt sale of telecommunication bandwidth to certain companies, popularly known as the 2G scandal. Filed by February 2008, the issue of 2G telecom licenses had already begun to attract political attention, with Sitaram Yechuri writing to the PM on the matter. It had not become a public controversy at the time I left the PMO. In fact, no issue involving the misuse of public office had become a media issue in the UPA1. There were no doubt rumors about the corrupt practices of some ministers. I was aware that the PM was occasionally briefed by the IB about ministers accumulating property and pursuing business interests. However, none of this ever blew up into a public controversy bearing the Volcker committee report charges pertaining to Natwar Singh and that related to activities that took place in 2001. Since I was not privy to government files and the issue never became public in my time, I was blissfully ignorant of the goings on with regard to telecom licenses that have since come to light. Dr. Singh's general attitude towards corruption in public life, which he adopted through his career in government, seemed to me that he would himself maintain the highest standards of probity in public life, but he would not impose this on others. In other words, he was himself incorruptible and also ensured that no one in his immediate family ever did anything wrong. But he did not feel answerable for the misdemeanors of his colleagues and subordinates. In this instance, he even felt less because he was not the political authority that had he was not the political authority that had appointed them to these ministerial positions. In practice, this meant that he turned a blind eye to the misdeeds of his ministers. He expected the Congress party leadership to deal with the black sheep in the government just as he expected the allies to deal with their black sheep. While his conscience was always clear with respect to his own conduct, he believed everyone had to deal with their own conscience. When a colleague got caught, the DMK minister Raja finally was as the DMK Minister Raja finally was, he let law take its own course. Raja was arrested, placed in judicial custody at Delhi's Tihar jail for 15 months and is currently being prosecuted for his role in the 2G scam. Dr. Singh's approach was a combination of active morality for himself and passive morality in respect for others. In UPA 1, public opinion did not turn against the PM for his moral ambivalence on his part because the issue had not been priced out in the open. The media focus in the first term was very much on his policy initiatives. But in UPA 2, when the corruption scandals tumbled out, his public image and standing took a huge hit from which he was unable to recover because there was no parallel policy narrative in play that could have salvaged his reputation. In other words, there were no positive acts of commission that captured the public mind enough to compensate for the negative acts of omission for which he was being chastised. As his reputation fell, so did that of his government. With Sharad Pawar, the boss of the NCP, and Lalu Prasad Yadav, the fierce politician who headed the Rashtriya Janata Dal, both of which were constituents of the UPA, Manmohan Singh had a very good equation, even if he did not approve of their conduct. With Pawar, there was a special relationship. Dr. Singh often recalled of how Pawar always lent support to him whenever his policies came under attack from within the Congress party. He regarded Pawar as an ally against his critics in the cabinet, like Arjun Singh, A.K. Antony, and Vaila Ravi. While Ravi maintained a low profile in the UPA government, both Arjun Singh and Antony remained difficult colleagues to handle. Arjun Singh would openly defy the PM or be critical of his policies, and Antony was guarded in public but difficult in private, often disagreeing with him on his foreign defense and economic policy initiatives. One day, Dr. Pawar landed up at 7 RCA with a complaint. A series of anti-Pawar news reports had appeared in the media, both national and Marathi media, and Pawar had traced them to a PMO source. He wanted the PM to have this inquired into. Dr. Singh asked me to find out who was behind these reports. I asked few of my contacts in the Hindi and Marathi media to find out. They all returned with the same news. Prithviraj Chauhan had planted these stories. It was a delicate issue for Dr. Singh. It was hard for him to take any action in the matter because Prithvi might well have been acting under the instruction from the party leadership. After all, Sonia and Pawar were not the best of friends, given his grouse that she backed the Narasimha Rao that she backed Narasimha Rao against him in 1991, and her grouse that he had raised her foreign origin issue to split the Congress party. As a Maharashtra politician who saw himself as a political rival of Pawar, Prithvi would have happily offered himself to the Congress party as a Congress party instrument in weakening Pawar's hold over the state. On the other hand, Pawar was a PM of favorite since he clearly preferred Dr. Singh as PM rather than a Pranab Mukherjee or any other Congress leader. At the height of the anti-Manmohan Singh campaign by the left on the issue of civil nuclear energy agreement and with the United States, some critics of the PM floated the idea that he could be replaced to save the government. Political reporters would come and tell me that the names of Pranab Mukherjee and Sushil Kumar Shinde were being mentioned as possible replacements by Congress functionaries known to be close to Sonia. One day, Praful Patel walked into my room and informed me that Shinde's name was being considered more seriously than Mukherjee's by some of the backroom boys of the Congress. But do not worry, he assured, no one can replace Dr. Sahib. We will never support anyone else. Thus, as some in the Congress party targeted an ally like Pawar, Dr. Singh sought to maintain good relations with him. Such relationships were Dr. Singh's real source of strength. Political analysts and reporters who skimmed the surface only saw Dr. Singh as Sonia's puppet. Those who had deeper knowledge of the power play within the wider coalition knew Dr. Singh had the backing of the coalition partners, some of whom were loyal to him than his own party leaders. Sonia chose him, no doubt, but once appointed, he became the UPA's prime minister. Dr. Singh was acutely conscious of the fact that he headed a coalition and not just a monolithic party, and made sure that he maintained the best of relation with the coalition partners. On one occasion in 2007, when the left and some congressmen were raising the pitch of the anti-Manmohan Singh campaign. The usual speculation of a possible change in PM once again resurfaced. Dr. Singh was upset with such speculation. One evening, I found him seated alone in the living room of 7 RCR looking grim. I could see that he was upset about something. It cannot go like that, he remarked. As his eyes became moist, I felt that he was holding back tears. I asked him what had happened, and he kept quiet. I just sat with him and tried to lighten the atmosphere by cracking a joke. It was common for Subbu to summon me whenever he found the PM looking depressed or unhappy and say, "Please go and cheer him up." I would refer to myself as a court gesture, summoned to entertain a morose king. My usual formula was to pass on some gossip from the media about the shenanigans of his ministerial colleagues or about Advani's latest attempt to unseat him and become PM. That kind of gossip always made him chuckle. This time, his unhappiness seemed to have been triggered by the renewed speculation about Congress Party seeking a change of PM rather than parting ways with the left. A political journalist gave him the name of one senior congressman who was indulging in such talk. That week was to be that week there was to be a meeting of the UPA coordination committee. To quell such idle talk, I encouraged Lalu Prasad Yadav to reiterate the UPA's confidence in Dr. Singh's leadership at this meeting. Lalu, rubbishing the idea of any change in leadership, went on to make a statement to that effect at the coordination committee meeting and in a grand gesture said that he would like to place on record his appreciation of the PM's stewardship of the government. Others joined in and reiterated the confidence in Dr. Singh's leadership. The UPA coalition, many believed, was handicapped by not having an active coordination committee and not naming a senior leader as its spokesperson. The NDA benefited from the institution of a coalition spokesman. George Fernandez did a good job in the role. The United and National Fronts had Jaipal Reddy as their spokesperson in the NDA. It was a personal equation and the chemistry between Vajpayee and Fernandez that enabled the latter to function effectively. The absence of an effective coalition management mechanism and a coalition spokesperson made the UPA less cohesive than the NDA, and this became more manifest in UPA too. To compensate for this organizational weakness, Dr. Singh took care to regularly brief the UPA leaders about every important decision his government would take, and they liked him for that. He would also do nothing politically significant without informing not just Sonia but also Karunanidhi, Pawar, and Lalu. On many occasions, after a major decision was taken at the weekly meeting of the Congress Party core group, Dr. Singh would personally inform all three coalition leaders before letting me inform the media. In that sense, Dr. Singh was truly consensual PM. His success in the UPA one derived largely from the fact that he invested enormous time and energy into building the required consensus around every political decision. The criticism sometimes leveled against him that he had taken a particular decision without consulting anyone was really never true. His fault, if anything, was that he spent far too much time building consensus rather than doing what he thought was right and demanding that the coalition support him. In the end, Dr. Singh was always conscious of the fact that while he might have been chosen by Sonia to become the PM, he had in fact become the PM as a consequence of an implicit consensus within the UPA coalition as a whole, and he was the best man for the job. In other words, he entered office as Sonia's nominee, but he settled down and retained office as a consensual and implicit choice of all UPA allies, especially Karunanidhi, Pawar, and Lalu, and indeed even the Bengal faction of the CPIM. His name had presented itself as an obvious compromise between Sonia on one side and Pawar, Karunanidhi, and Surjit on the other. Sharad Pawar's opposition to Sonia being PM had been openly stated, and this was the reason for his quitting the Congress in the first place. The CPIM claimed that it was open to supporting Sonia as PM, though this had been disputed by I.K. Gujral in his autobiography. Gujral claims that it was Surjit who was instrumental in getting Mulayam to step back and not support Sonia when she tried to form a government in 1999. There is no argument that in 2004 Surjit, a CPIM General Secretary, enthusiastically endorsed Dr. Singh's nomination to the job. So there was considerable truth to Dr. Singh's self-perception in UPA 1 that he was not just a nominee of Sonia but he was someone acceptable to the stakeholders in the coalition. The phenomenon of prime ministers being named by a clique of leaders and compromise candidates coming up from nowhere was not new to Indian politics. This is how Lal Bahadur Shastri, Charan Singh, Narasimha Rao, Devegowda, and I.K. Gujral were named. Indeed, Even Indira Gandhi was nominated by the so-called syndicate that ran the affairs of the Congress party after Nehru's death. However, both Indira and Rao staged coups and took charge of the party organization by getting themselves elected as party president. Every now and then, the party experimented with separating two posts, but no one was left in doubt that the real power lay with the PM. Congress party president Devnath Baroa's infamous statement during the time of Indira Gandhi's prime ministership that Indira was India and India was Indira showed who the real boss was, even when the two posts were separated. Given his background, it was not surprising that many initially believed that the BJP charge that Dr. Singh was a Mukhota mask for the Congress president. In August 2004, Yashwant Sinha dubbed him Shikhandi, a man woman character in the Mahabharata whom Bhishma refused to fight because it was against his principle to fight a woman. There was a double entrante in that metaphor, implying that the Prime Minister was controlled by Sonia Gandhi and it was a damaging illusion. Clearly, my biggest challenge as a media advisor was to firmly establish in the minds of ordinary people the credentials and credibility of Dr. Singh as PM. With that, we've come to the end of a long chapter 4. And in chapter 4, it is primarily about the relationship that the PM has with the allies, primarily the allies from the left. A lot of pages are being covered, especially on left, on how he built a very good relationship with Surjit Singh, who was the head of CPIM from Punjab, primarily because both of them belong to the same community and they helped appoint Montek, who was also from their community. So they had that innate bonding among themselves, but this could not last for too long because there was a political change in the CPIM itself, uh, and with the nuclear deal coming through and CPIM's opposition to it, the position uh, that Dr. Singh was treading towards was getting more and more tenuous. Now, apart from CPIM, his major allies were Sharad Pawar from the NCP, which is in Maharashtra, Karunanidhi from Tamil Nadu, and Lalu Prasad from Bihar. He always maintained a very good equation with these coalition partners, especially Tamil Nadu, where Sanjaya feels that a major credit of the 2004 election success goes to Dr. Singh's reaching out to DMK and building a very good equation with them. And he feels a lot of political journalists or political experts don't give him enough credit for that. And and apart from that, of course, every policy decision that he takes, of course, Sonia Gandhi into confidence because she is by default his boss and somebody who you know is the remote control for the country. But also his coalition partners Sharad Pawar, Karnanidhi, and Lalu. So he kind of brings in all the coalition and he builds a consensus of all the decision before he takes the decision. And only when he's got the consensus of his coalition partner is when he informs Sanjaya to release the information to the press. And so primarily there is a lot of information in this chapter, but primarily if you have to get the crux of it, it is all about his relationship and his dynamics with maintaining a relationship with the left uh, and other coalition partners. uh, Sanjaya obviously uh, fits in at the media part, but Sanjay also is a keen observer of things. He uh, he he is the media advisor from Dr. Singh's side, and Ahmed Patel, who is the secretary from Sonia Gandhi's side, interact on such key issues. However, only on two particular serious issues is in this entire term he had a very uh, detailed working with Ahmed Patel. So his relationship and his understanding of Ahmed Patel is laid out in as follows. He feels that Ahmed Patel was, while understanding how powerful a role he was playing by being the personal secretary or of Sonia Gandhi was very differential to and respectful of Dr. Singh. He was courteous to a fault, but he knew that he had power in his hand, and he did not go out to assert it to anyone. So he had that soft power which he wielded. Who else does he talk about? Yes, he talks about how the equation between a PM who's not the head of the party which is ruling the country and the head of the party which is ruling the country. So there are two power circles at any point of time. And he gives the example of chief ministers in different states and the party heads, how they manage each other. Or in certain cases, like in communist countries, where the communist party's general secretary and the leader of the country have to manage the equations, because the leader of the country cannot take a decision which goes against the party's core philosophy. And so in this case where uh, where um, Manmohan Singh was in that head of the country situation along with Sonia Gandhi as the party leader, he had to make sure that every decision that he took was run through her, and he did that very efficiently. Mm, there are a couple of other things that he mentions about that. There are two or three ways that people work in this kind of arrangement. One is like chief ministers, like for example Manohar Joshi or Jyoti Basu of the CPI, Manoj Joshi of the Shiv Sena, would have daily meetings with the party supremo to run their decisions through. Uh, but there is a big difference between a chief minister and a prime minister. Prime minister of country is a position of power who deals with national leaders of other countries, and the national leaders of other countries have to know that the prime minister means business and can take decisions on his own. So it was therefore a very tenuous bridge that Manmohan Singh was walking through, and he needed to get Sonia Gandhi to veto all his decisions and be ready with it before he goes for his meetings or tours and so on and so forth. And what else is there in this chapter? I think I've covered some of what I thought were important and anecdotal here. There obviously are other things, like he gives examples of how in India there were party leaders who, or there were prime ministers who were not party leaders, and therefore the strings were being pulled on them. Uh, Starting from when India became independent, Nehru was the prime minister of first independent India, but was not the leader of the Congress party. So he made sure that uh, he kept the Congress party leaders not interfering. He did not let them interfere in his business by telling them that if you want to be part of the decisions, because we as ministers are bound by the Official Secrets Act, so we cannot reveal to you all the decisions that we take and the reasons why we take the decision. So if you want to know that, you will have to be part of the government and then get to know, or please be where you are, manage the party and do not interfere beyond a point in our decision making. uh, the other way is that he set up a planning commission. Nehru had set up a planning commission with Dr. Singh and Sonia Gandhi. There was a coordination committee which she headed, and therefore this coordination committee helps in bringing all the decisions first to the coalition members so that they are in line. It's not very easy at times because a lot of decisions are not left leaning, and therefore one of their principals coalition partner, which is the left, was obviously not very happy about it. But the way Dr. Singh and Sonia managed the situation was, she was seen as a socialist person who had left leaning, and he was seen as somebody who was working for the market and had right leaning. So they managed the situation, or they managed the workings of the government together that way. Obviously, if something goes well, she would get the credit, and if something goes wrong, he would take the hit. But yeah, that was the way it was. Yeah, that's about it for what I could pull out of chapter 4. We will catch up for chapter 5. Thank you very much.